Hey, it's Buddy. Before we get into this episode, I want to tell you about my brand new book, From Tailspin to Tailwind, which covers the pivotal moments that reshape Souls for Souls from a flailing nonprofit into a model of success. From revamping core values, innovating operational strategies, to crafting impactful partnerships, each chapter is filled with tangible lessons from the front lines that can help leaders in both the nonprofit and for-profit space. The link to pre-order From Tailspin to Tailwind is in the show notes.
Originally, we had the idea to manage inventory better, to really allow a woman to order a bra, and then we would make it. And so we had this idea that we could take all the inputs and, stage them in the factory, and as the orders came in, we would produce them. Well, great idea in theory, but there is a reason why Ford invented the way that most items at scale are manufactured. What ended up happening was we had bras coming off the line like a Frankenstein bra. It was not good. We had invested time and resources into this idea and method of doing it. And we had to kind of say, we're going to table all the way we're doing it and we're going to start again. And that was over $100,000 that we lost within the first 6 months.
That's the voice of Heidi Zak, co-founder and CEO of ThirdLove, a multi-generational women's lifestyle brand and lingerie company known for marketing body positivity and inclusive product lines for women. In this episode, Heidi shares her very personal David and Goliath origin story, taking on industry giant Victoria's Secret to become the third largest online intimate apparel brand in the U.S. She also discusses ThirdLove's strong social impact program, donating bras and underwear to women in need all over the world, empowering them to suit up with confidence and take on whatever tailspins lie ahead. My name is Buddy Teaster, President and CEO of Souls for Souls, and you're listening to the Repurpose Podcast, featuring candid conversations with business leaders who share the ups and downs, the wins and challenges they face along the way, and how they learn to overcome them. These are the real stories of going from tailspin to tailwind. All right, welcome Heidi Zak. It is a pleasure to talk to you, but I think we have to start like the Marvel Cinematic Universe with your backstory. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are?
Yeah, I think I fell into entrepreneurship and starting a company pretty much by accident. But then when I kind of look at my career and where it led me, maybe it's not accident. So it's a little bit of both. But I had worked in retail after business school in New York City. But I moved out to California and I took a job at Google. So I was now working at a tech company. And when I got to the Bay Area, I had never been surrounded by so many entrepreneurs. And the excitement and the building, the innovation that was out here, it hadn't been something that was part of how I was raised or, my career to that point. And while I was at Google, I had a lot of different business ideas and I was kind of toying with starting a company. And a lot of them just didn't pan out or didn't make sense. And one day I, needed a bra and I went to a Victoria's Secret store in the mall and I drove there and went inside and had the typical experience with the lights and these sales associates with the measuring tape around her neck and kind of buying a bra that didn't really fit. And I took that bag when I walked out, the pink striped bag, and I stuffed it into a bigger bag that I was carrying because I was so embarrassed that I was shopping there. And for me, that was really the aha moment of why am I spending money on a brand that I'm embarrassed to be shopping from that doesn't represent who I am? And I don't want to go to the store, right? I'm busy, I'm working, I have a zillion things to do. And why am I going to the store? So I went home that night and I was like, there's got to be some online bra brands. And there were none, which is also hard to believe now, given the current landscape. But, this is before direct to consumer. This is before D2C. And so I thought to myself, how hard could it be? And here we are. So,
well, look, this podcast is called Repurpose. So I'm going to talk about purpose because it's baked into what you do and have been doing at ThirdLove for sure. Yeah. But also this first season around tailspin to tailwind. It's probably easy to look at Heidi Zak's life and just say success to success to success. Right. But I know anytime you want to disrupt something, which is what you did, like it doesn't go right. Like there are tailspins of different kinds.
For sure. There are many. Look, I had never started a company before, and I actually do truly remember kind of day one of having quit my job at Google. It was myself, my husband. We had 2 really early employees who were kind of working for free because we hadn't raised any money. So we were bootstrapping, and we were sitting around our dining room table kind of looking at each other, being like, how are we going to do this? And, building a company, you just start chipping away. But I think one of the big first issues we had was production. So we didn't have a brand, we didn't have a website. So you can imagine trying to pitch manufacturers an idea for a company that has sizing technology and half cups, which nobody has. It doesn't have a website, doesn't have a brand. It doesn't really have backing at this point. I mean, people said it was just no. First, we flew to China, a lot of no's over there, spent a couple weeks over there. Very different than it is today. And we landed in Mexico and we found a manufacturer who took us on and would do it. And we started actually producing bras on demand. So a little known part of our story that isn't really publicized and most people don't know is originally we had the idea of to manage inventory better, to really allow a woman to order a bra and then we would make it. And so we had this idea that we could take all the inputs and, stage them in the factory. And as the orders came in, we would produce them. Well, great idea in theory, but there is a reason why Ford invented, the way that most items at scale are manufactured. What ended up happening was there's 30 pieces in a bra, and which a lot of people don't know. So it was very easy on the line to get things mixed up. So you could imagine a wire or a cup for a B to a C isn't that different. They're sitting next to each other. So we had bras coming off the line that just weren't even
like a Frankenstein.
Like a Frankenstein bra. It was not good. The opposite of what we were trying to achieve, which was high quality and great fit, right? And so we had invested time and resources into this idea and method of doing it. And we had to kind of say, we're going to scratch this. We're going to table all the way we're doing it and we're going to start again. And that was over $100,000 that we lost, right? Like within the first 6 months. And so, there's a lot of other examples of that, including, our website crashing when I went on the Today Show because we had built our own. This is another tells you it dates me in the company. Shopify didn't exist. So we had built our own website, our own front end and back end, and it ended up crashing. And so we there was just a lot of things that happened along the way that made us say, look, we got to do this differently. Like this obviously isn't working. And so it was hard, it was really hard. And then I think one of the last things was finding product market fit. I mean, today we're a household name. A lot of people know ThirdLove, have heard of ThirdLove. But when we first started selling, no one had heard of us. So we figured out product. We got that going. People really, the small amount of people who are buying our product really like it. But it wasn't enough. And we were maybe at that point a team of 15, and we were sitting around being like, we're not going to be here in a year from now if we can't figure out how to get more women to try ThirdLove. And we had this crazy idea that we came up with called Try Before You Buy, which and now again is like, Amazon does that today. Right. People have heard of it. At the time, no one was doing it. And
especially for that kind of a product.
100%. Underwear, forget about it. It was like, sometimes you couldn't even return it. So we said, look, we'll send you this bra for free. You don't need to pay for it. You pay for shipping to yourself, $3.99. Try it on, take the tags off, wash it, wear it. If you love it, keep it, pay full price. If you don't love it, we'll pay for return shipping. We took all of the risk off the customer. Wow. And that was the most probably impactful kind of pivot point. It just started working and we started running Facebook ads, saying try this bra for free and try before you buy. And it really resonated with women, especially because no one had heard of us and there was no one to ask for a recommendation. Right. It was really risky because if we didn't have great product, we would have been out of money in 2 months, but it worked. And that really scaled our first couple million customers.
That's stressful no matter what. And you've got partners and co-founders, and one of them is your husband.
Yep.
What is that like to manage that kind of stress when you can't leave it at the office?
It's really hard. You bring it home. It's not, you can't leave it there. I learned this the hard way. I mean, I think that, we had tried to make a rule at one point, like when we're having dinner, we won't talk about the company. It was we couldn't do it.
Silent dinner.
So, yeah, totally. So we just stopped trying to make rules and we're like, I guess this is the path we've chosen. I mean, look, on one hand, it was really amazing because when things worked, there's such a joy as an entrepreneur in seeing things work. And when good things happen, which they do because it is a roller coaster, it is the up and down, you have someone who really can share it with you all, like in business and in personal. The problem is, yes, on the flip, it's hard. I there's no other way to describe it other than
Yeah.
that was not my most favorite thing about building the
Yeah.
company.
So Heidi, how has that changed as the company's grown? You've got more infrastructure and people, and it's not just the two of you around the table. How has that evolved?
Yeah, I mean, now we have an executive team, and actually, my husband left the company full time a couple of years ago now, two and a half
Okay.
maybe years ago, and he's starting another company. So I still have an entrepreneur in the house, and he took on a chairman role, so he's still involved, and we actually still talk about Third Love a lot at home because it doesn't stop even when you're not in the day to day, but over time, we hired a team, we hired a great leadership team. We obviously divvied up the things we were focused on more and more. So there definitely, as the company grew, it did get easier, but it's still not easy. Even today, right? Like it is still his baby because he started it, and my baby. And we, that's the nature of, I think, being a founder.
Yeah. So I'm going to switch gears, but something that you said earlier on, I don't know what the numbers are, but my guess is Victoria's Secret had most of the bra market, like they were the big player. So not only we don't know who you are, the model's different, we want you to have this complicated manufacturing process. P.S. We're taking on Victoria's Secret. Like, what was that part of your journey like? Because I can imagine a lot of people just saying, forget it, you can't beat them.
I mean, it depends on the numbers you look at. They owned around 50% of the market.
Wow.
Whereas today, I think, by anything you see, it's more like 25 to 30. So they've lost substantial share in the past 10 to 12 years. But, I kind of actually looked at it the other way. So I remember when I came home that night from Google and I was talking to my husband about it, I was like, I actually think this is a great market to go after because you've one big player, you know who they are, and they haven't innovated in years. And they are so out of touch with what the modern woman wants. If we can actually have a different point of view and get it out there, I think it's really going to resonate. Look, it is the behemoth and it is a little scary to go up against an industry giant, but when it's one entity or one product, if you think about innovating across any sector, in some ways it's easier because you know who you're competing against.
The target's really clear.
Yeah.
My sense of Third Love as our source for souls relationship, obviously I'm not a customer, is your focus on including people, all kinds of people from the beginning, is baked into who you are. Now, I don't know what it's like in California, but here in Tennessee, everything related to DEI is getting smacked down. Like, we don't want to talk about it. If you're a public company, they're kind of, hard against you. And yet it's in the DNA of the company. So can you talk about inclusion and what that means as a business, like as a marketing strategy, as a business strategy, and as a human strategy?
Yes. Yeah, I think from the beginning, we really wanted to create something that any woman could look at and really say, yeah, I could be a part of that. Or, that brand kind of gets me, or I see myself as part of that community. And I think in order to create that, A, you have to have product for them, like sizes for them, obviously. And then B, you have to showcase something beyond kind of the standard, 6-foot model, 34B, 110 pounds, whatever that's, typical idea was. And we really just started from like, what do we want to see? It's a funny story. I actually remember our first photo shoot here in San Francisco. We did it on the very cheap. We had a local photographer. And as one does, he said, well, who do you aspire to be like? So he had a vision of something as he went into the photo shoot. Like, what other bra brand or, who are you like, who do you kind of like, right? And we're like, none of them. We couldn't give him one example of something to look at. And even finding models back then was so hard to find a model who wasn't what I just described, because there was no industry around having models who were quote unquote plus, or, a size 8 or normal, an average woman's size, right?
Right.
And so we had to dig far and wide, and we were bringing people who weren't even models to be models. Actually, a lot of our models over the years that we found, I should say my head of creative, because she really did all the sourcing, but the women that she found have become very large models and have gone on to work with Victoria's Secret and a lot of big brands, but we use them first. Like we found women who weren't cookie cutter and who weren't right, so back to your question, I think part of it is a visual representation. Part of it is a product line and size range that can fit more types of women. And that took time. I wouldn't say we launched and we had all the sizes we do today and all the styles. Of course not. And I always tell other people, you can't do that. You just have to have a vision and start somewhere and like work towards the goal. It doesn't happen overnight. But certainly that was a huge piece of saying like, we're different. We're not going to look like the others here. We're not selling sex to men. We're selling bras and underwear to women. And that's like it's a different thing.
So how does that show up on your team? And I don't know if you have a board, but again, some of those other places where this sort of DEI thing has been really challenged the last couple of years. How do you guys think about that?
I mean, for us, it's always been easy to have women. I mean, our team is mostly women. In some ways, I joke like we have the reverse. Like
you have the token male.
Yeah, we and I do, and we do have men in our company, and I do say we need men in here. We do need men around the table, and so. But yeah, our board has always been sort of a mix of men and women too. It's been, I would say overall, our company, our board has been more diverse than most. But I believe in particular, if you really think for any company, who's your customer base needs to be highly represented in leadership in your board, because those are the people who are buying your products and they really have a deep perspective on the market.
So talk about how you engage your customers, because it seems like it goes beyond, here's a good fit with a good product.
Yeah, I think part of it is this trying to just be really real with women and really authentic, which we are because we are real people. And we always try to have that come through. And education is a big piece of that. Most women are not wearing the right size bra, right? Most women don't know what style's right for them. Most women don't even know how to put on a bra, how to wash a bra. So a lot of the relationship we have with our customers starts with first helping them find their fit, because that's the most important thing. But then, really thinking about how do we help them understand other things. And also part of it is, our programs that we do for our community, we believe it's really important to impact all women, not just even our customers, right? And so all of that, I think, comes through to be a more authentic brand that women can connect to. And again, relate to, like, I am not a celebrity, and so I'm a real person, right? Who started in my living room.
So it seems like there's a clear purpose around when you started this was to solve a problem that you experienced personally. There's a piece that's about helping women at a different level. How can you connect that sort of business purpose to the next level and maybe to your own purpose? Because it seems like those things are pretty woven together.
Yeah, I mean, our true mission at ThirdLove that we talk about at the beginning of every meeting, right, is helping women feel confident and comfortable every single day. And so when I think about, who I am and my personal values, a lot of those are interwoven into the company, right? Our company values are somewhat my personal values, not exactly. The company's not named Heidi, but right, enough. But really, I believe deeply in the power of women. And I think that women can do anything, especially today. And I'm not saying it's easy, but as we think about sort of I call it like the armor, the first thing a woman puts on in the morning when she's getting ready is her bra and underwear. And she's putting that on usually to think about like what is she wearing that day? What is she doing that day? Who is she that day? Because women are lots of different things at different moments. And so really that idea that no matter what, whether it's she's wearing a sweatshirt, she's working from home, or she's going to pick up her kids and she's got a wireless bra on, great. But she may also be going to some big meeting or big pitch meeting and she's putting on a different bra that makes her feel really powerful, confident, comfortable, so she can go in and do what she needs to do that day. And so to me, it's really interwoven, and like we want to be there for a woman like all day at different moments. And I always the biggest compliment people can give me, which I do hear, is when they're like, I don't even feel like I'm wearing a bra when I put on your product. And that's the goal. Like, she shouldn't be thinking about ThirdLove. She should be thinking about whatever's more important than that. And that's really our goal and our mission.
I love that. I know you guys have done a lot, and you personally, as well as the company, around supporting women entrepreneurs. So how do you sort of go that next step to just not talk about it and support it, but to get behind it?
Yeah, in terms of the entrepreneurship program, we've supported early stage female founders of color. And that's been important because I know how hard it is to raise money. I know how hard it is to raise money as a woman. I do not know how hard it is to raise money as a woman of color, but I've heard those stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're just adding levels of difficulty onto something that's already extremely challenging. And so it felt like a natural way for us to be able to give a grant, give a small grant, give coaching, just really to be another person that's in their in their orbit that can help.
Mm-hmm.
Like really, that's what an early stage founder needs: as advisors, money, mentors. And that's something that was pretty easy for us to do as a company, and something that was innately a something we could do to give back across the company too. So if people want to help mentor, they just raise their hand and they can get involved.
Oh, great. That's
Yeah.
great. This is not primarily a Souls for Souls podcast, but I think your take back policy is great for customers. It's a challenge on the inventory and like, what do you do with those things, right?
Yeah.
And we've over time been a part of that solution. So can you talk about how that program or those kind of programs keep your employees engaged and make your customers feel better as well?
Yeah, it's so important. And I also think that a lot of our customers don't even still know about the work we've done because we're not so in
Yeah.
your face with it. Where it's not like front and center necessarily on our website. But yeah, how it actually started at the very beginning of Third Love, we got an inbound from a local organization here in San Francisco, which really helps it's a shelter that helps with the homeless community, and they reached out, and we were tiny at the time, and they said, hey, like we're really in need of bras and underwear, and could you help? And we got on the phone with them to learn more, and they were like, it's our largest hole in donations because
Yeah.
there is no program that really accepts bras and underwear. We don't know how to get it. And we said, of course we can help. And we, through that research, really were like, it was eye-opening of like, wow, I had no idea
Yeah.
how hard this specific category was. And if you think about it, again, going back to what I said about our customers, if that's the first thing a woman puts on in the morning before she goes to a job interview or does anything, what if she doesn't have that?
Yeah.
So it really opened our eyes to the fact that we could be a really important part in helping women get back on their feet or after natural disaster, whatever, all the
Yeah.
things that could potentially happen. And that's how it started. And so it's become super important. Our employee base is really passionate about the work we do. Anytime something happens, small, large, internationally, locally, we figure out how we can partner with the right types of organizations. And I know it's a very small way to give back, but I know the team feels so passionately about being able to make an impact. And our community for sure too. But I kind of joke because oftentimes women will be like, oh, I heard that. And like, I didn't even know, you guys, that's amazing. And they don't even know we do it.
Talking to our partners, especially outside the US, is where most of the Third Love donations have gone. It is shocking how fundamental it is. And the sense of confidence and all those things you add. I don't know how I'm going to eat tomorrow. I don't know if my kids are safe.
Yeah.
And being able to provide maybe one thing that makes me feel good about myself walking out the door is a huge deal. So I just want to say thanks for letting us be a part of that and what an impact it's had with thousands, tens of thousands of women over the years. So we're happy to do that.
Yeah, and it's been wonderful working with a partner who can help us. I think our biggest challenge, always is like, who's the right partner? How can we work with them? How can we get the product to the people who need it most? I mean, there is so much, as there's so much logistically that needs to happen. And so that, it's super important for us to have that partner network that is on the ground and can really help, because otherwise, I don't know how anything gets done.
Yeah. I know we're sort of getting to the end of our time. I could ask you 1,000 more questions, but you're 12 years into this journey-ish and successful. My guess is you're thinking about what's next a little bit.
Yeah. So for us, one of the things that I've learned is that I'm not always right. And that I sometimes say things that I'm like, actually, that wasn't totally true. And so, in the early days of ThirdLove, I was like, we'll never have any stores. Like, this is an online brand. No woman wants to go to a store. Who wants to do that? And what I've come to realize is that there's a lot of women who want to be able to have a personal interaction with a human, right? And that helps them build confidence and trust in the product and the brand. And they just want to make sure it's right. They just, they would rather touch it. And also quality is something hard to sell online. That's something I've learned really well over the years. It's like everything can look the same online, but it doesn't feel the same.
And I think it's gotten harder, like Instagram and all this sort of stuff. It looks great. Get it, and it's terrible, which erodes trust in your product, right?
Exactly. And so how do you really know? And so we've started to open retail stores. We launched in wholesale earlier this year with Neiman Marcus, and which has been
Bravo,
great.
I think,
and
right?
It's been really, they've been a great partner. So we're expanding wholesale, we're expanding our own retail stores, and really thinking about how do we meet women where they are, where they shop. And so that's a huge piece of our business, which, like I said, at one point in time, I didn't think we'd ever do, but I think is really important for our brand to grow. And for women to be able to try us, because the Try Before You Buy program is great for online, but it won't service everyone.
Right.
And so, my goal is, it's always been to help as many women as possible, look and feel great. And so I can't picture myself doing anything else, it is my baby. So, reaching more women, continuing to make an impact and learning and growing, doing different things, like that's failing. Like that's been the story in the past and will continue to be. So, yeah.
So last question, lots of times there's what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask it another way. What is happening in your life right now, Heidi, that you want to remember in 20 years? Like, what is terrific about right now that you don't want to lose 20 years from now?
So what is really cool about my life is a little more of the blend of personal and professional. So when I started ThirdLove, I didn't have any kids. I had 2 kids along the way. So I now have an 11-year-old daughter who came at the very beginning of the ThirdLove journey. And what's super cool is to see her really start to understand what ThirdLove is, how her parents built this company. We have a store in San Francisco that she gets to go to. We've hosted events with another brand that does tween bras, so bras for young girls, and we sell those on our website. It's not our brand, but they have great product. They're a great partner called Bluette, and we've done these events about puberty and getting your first bra in store. And what's super fun to see is empowering and the younger generation to not have the awkward experience. I remember my bra shopping experience with my mom and my grandma in JCPenney, whenever that was, a long time ago, and how embarrassed I was in the store. And we've made it really comfortable for them, and the parents can come in, and everything is very different today. They're much more open and confident, these young women. And so I think that's something that I don't take for granted, that I'm really lucky to be seeing, to be doing, to be impacting, even though that's not our core demo. We have a lot of moms. And so really thinking about and that's something that you may see from us. How do we think about that? We have the mom, she's the daughter, they want more from us. I think you'll see more from us in that space.
Great.
Yeah.
What a cool thing to be, I remember when, we made that shift. That's a cool thing.
Yeah.
Well, Heidi, thanks a million for carving out some time. I know you got lots of demands, so really appreciate you talking about some of your story and some of the tailspin and some of the tailwind. So thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for listening to the Repurpose Podcast with Buddy Teaster. You can learn more about what we do at s4s.org. And if you like this content, please share, rate, and review our episodes wherever you get your favorite podcasts.